Funding for The Rotor Workshop is provided in part by Hitachi Power Tools, manufacturers of a full range of construction and woodworking power tools. Today in the Rotor Workshop, a unique CD storage case. Using a special shop-made jig, Rotor experts Bob and Rick Rosendahl show you a quick and easy way to mortise slots into the tray. You'll also discover a unique method of dovetailing the modules so they can be locked together. The CD storage case, next, right here in the Rotor Workshop.
Welcome to the Router Workshop, and today we're going to make a modular CD storage. And Dad, what are you going to start with?
I'm going to start with the tray that holds the CDs, Rick, and we've got some extra wide dovetails in there, but we have a stepping method to use also. Right. And the next thing I'm going to do is put the dovetails not only in the outside of the case, but I've got one in here for the runner, and we have to make the runner. That's a double dovetail.
All right, now I'm going to go ahead and make the combination joint that ties the box together, round off the outside edges, and finish off the pull that goes on the inside.
Take it with you. I'm ready to go. Okay, what we need to do is start with a half-inch dovetail bit. We'll chuck that up. Half-inch dovetail bits, standard again in it. We've got half-inch across it, and we've got a 14-degree. So that's the regular dovetail. We'll put that in. And we're not going to use that brass bushing as we usually do in it. And the reason being, we've got a fixture to go clamp across the top, and that'll just suffice for that. So we'll put that in here, and I'll raise the cutter up just temporarily here for the location. Using a spacer fence here, but it's not like the normal one we would have used for cutting half-inch dovetails. I've got a quarter-inch one, and the idea of the quarter-inch is just to make the spacing for us. So I'm going to put one bolt on either end here, and I'll get that one into spot, and then we'll get the next one here, and I'll tighten that down. This is going to be a little different setup because I've got to pass through this tray twice, and we've got 10 slots. We've designed the tray to hold 10 CDs. I guess that's where you spend your money, is get on these CDs in it. Now, height of the bit. We're going to be about 5/16, I think, in here. I'll set my quarter-inch one up. Looks like I got it good enough in it. Really doesn't matter. It needs enough in there to hold this CD from moving. Now, let's go to the piece that we're going to use here. Got a blank piece of walnut in it. Nice piece of walnut side of it. I want to point out one thing in here. When I start off to pass through here, we're going to get tear out probably on both sides, and that's why we've made this wider, and then we're going to joint it down on either side, and that'll take off your chipping, but after we have it finished in it. So we'll set this up in here and come across. I'll use my push stick on the side to hold this when I get going, and I've got a little stick of wood in here, and you might notice a little piece of wood. I'll talk about that later in it and why I've got it on after we go across and cut. I'm going to cut one, stop, and have a look here. I want to get a little piece of sandpaper and lay it handy here for me, and my push stick. And again, the push stick I've got a little cleat at the back side, acts across the top. Now, let me just see if we can get some power in here. We'll plug that in. Now there's the first one we've cut, and it kind of plugs up in it. What I'm going to do is when I get started in here, I'm going to run across the second time, and what it'll do is kick it out. On end grain like that, it has a tendency to plug up even if you do slow down. With a lineal grain, it seems like it cleans better. Now there's the cut. That cut is not wide enough for it, but I'm going to continue till I get 10 of them across here, and we'll stop and do it. See, I'm just going to put it across. See the step that it does? That way every one will be the same. pull it up and you can see the tear out on the back side. See this little stick I've had on here? This little stick I have on here is double stick taped on, and that's a thickness piece. I take that off now, and then when I come in here to put this in it, it moves it over and cuts on that side. The one thing you never want to do with the router is when the router bit's turning in here and you want to cut more, don't cut between the bit and the fence in it. Always cut on the outside because the pressures are in there. That's a safety feature. So now we're just going to go in here and extend them off. Now, you can notice and then you'll see the difference in the width. Now you can take your CD and see if it fits inside. And that's where you get that flop on it and you can see them and read them across. Now we'll continue and finish those off. Now, I need to do another operation, so I'm going to give Rick a little cleanup job. What he needs to do is put this pull in here. Maybe he'll even be good enough to joint them two off for me, too.
The next step we have to do is go ahead and cut the finger pull in place. And what I've got set up here is a bullnose bit and a fence, giving it the proper distance away. The other thing we've started here, if you look at our tape on here, I've got a start point and a stop point. To set that up, what I did is find the center of the bit, which is this center line, and then just added an inch for the start and an inch for the stop. That gives us a 2-inch finger pull. Now, how we're going to cut this is we're going to line up over top of the moving bit, touch into it, and move to the stop line, and then pull away. So let's go ahead and start this up and try it. And here's what we've got. Fairly nice, clean, and finished.
What I need to do is change bits in here because we're going to cut a dovetail in that casework and for the runners. And the dovetail that I need to cut there has got to be wider than the 1/2 inch. So I'm going to chuck up a different cutter in here, and I'm going to use a 3/4 inch dovetail. Now the slope of the dovetail is still going to be 14 degrees. So we'll take this fixture off. But didn't that work good on spacing? At least you didn't have to measure each one. Every time you measure things when you make mistakes, so you try to avoid that. And make sure you unplug your router for safety every time you change a cutter. And we'll go down here and change cutter. We've got a 3/4 inch bit to put in here. It has a 1/2 inch shank, same as this one. And did I ever get that tight in here? Well, we'll cure that. I got a little stick in here. You can pry that between your 2 wrenches in here. I snugged that one really down. There. There's the bit. Now that bit in here that we have is exactly 14 degrees. Only thing is it's 3/4 across the top as opposed to 1/2 inch. So the angle will match inside of it. Now the depth of this, and again I'm not going to be able to use my little bushing in here. I want to set it up in it because this is where I want to set my my depth. I'm going to set this up to 1/4 inch, and the 1/4 inch in here, height, that'll be depth of it, so we'll tap that in here just till it comes flush with 1/4, and there it is. Just take it across there, yep, got that, and we'll tip it back in. Now, we're going to need a fence, so we'll take a fence in here, turn it down. I'm going to be a little ways away here to start with on these first ones. Got a little tricky situation here to do. We've got to find center. And the center we find is a little different than what we normally would do. Rick's going to come along and put some combination joints in here. And I've marked the mark on the side. And that's the side that we're going to really make him have a check here to make sure he's got them in the right place after I get done, because I'm going to dictate where that goes. We need the groove in there, and then on the opposite side is where we need this little rabbit to fit into it. The problem is these are all the same. 4 of them are all the same size, so we're off 3/8 of an inch. So that's 3/8 of an inch short because it's got to go bottom out to it. So I can put the line side down and run it. Then I'm going to turn the stick and come this way. Well, when I do that, I'm going to need a filler piece to get it exactly in the center. And the center isn't the center of the board, but it's centered from here to here, this way, because that's the 3/8. Rick will explain that a little further in there, why we lost the 3/8. And I just picked up a scrap board to find center as opposed to measuring it. And I put a line in this side. And now remember, it comes right out to the end of that stick, and we'll put the other line in. Now, there's the center. What it did was reduce it, and that's why you can find it real close in there. Now, again, we're not going to center on the bit because I'm going to have a slot 3/4 of an inch come back and do another one. So the slot this time, the center is on the inside of the bit. So we'll put this piece like that, right like that, same side down. That's not going to work, is it? I didn't have my line on the side of that. Now, if I did that, I would have to have the stick in it, and I didn't put the stick in here. So now we need the stick in it. So I'm going to have to change that 3/8 of an inch. See how easy it is to make a mistake in there? Only thing is, it was good I didn't get the cut made. Otherwise, I'd have really been in trouble. Now, of course, Rick would have been in trouble. He's the guy that would have found out about it after when he come to fit him. Okay, we got it set up there. Now, I got to remember, keep my stick here. And I want to do one, and then I'll come back to it. I'll run the line first, and we're going to run this through. Might as well use my push stick. It's handy here. Keeps your fingers away. Now, let's run it. Now, there's the piece. There's the dovetail that we've got in it. Now, let's just set that aside again, and I've got to do each piece at it, except I got one that's a little different, too. That's that one. Now, again, I got a line on the side. I run that in. Next time I turn it around, I got to put the filler. Let's finish them up here. Stop and let you have a look here. This is the outside of the modular case that locks them together, but we need one for the drawer slide. So now we're going to turn it up and put also one on the opposite side, and that's just on the one bottom piece. Okay, now what we got to do is work on the rails. Let's just set that aside here for a second. One thing we don't want to do is don't change the height of the bit. And we need to expose just a small portion of that cutter out the outside edge here. And I've got the rails cut in it. Now, we made them out of walnut. And we'll just take and put a clamp on here and tighten that back down. Get my fine adjusting tool up here. And here's the rail. Now, I'm going to cut a couple of them maybe. You can have a look at what I'm doing in it. And I'm just going to cut enough out here to feather edge that. Let me have a look at what I got first here. See the stick that I've got? I've got a dovetail on either side, and each side of the dovetail in it. Now I'm going to lay the stick upside down, and what it's going to do is leave a space in here. So when you lock those mods together, they'll have a little space between it. Also, it's going to act as a rail for your drawer to slide on, or your tray for the CDs, and that'll leave a little space for it so it's not rubbing on the bottom. So I'm going to turn it over and do the other side also. Now that's kind of a tricky looking thing, isn't it? There's that little piece in the center that I mentioned to you, and we've got a dovetail on either side. That's your space. Now we can go back to our piece in here and see what kind of a fit we got. And isn't it kind of nice when things fit in there? Now I got a real snug fit on it. And the reason I got a snug fit, and with pine lots of times when you get in here, you'll get furry edges. You just need to sand that down a little bit. And the other thing you need to do is take a sandpaper and take those sharp edges off. And the same in here, because they have a tendency to bite right in. Those are real razor edges. If you're using a maple or something, don't run your finger like that across it. You'll surely get a cut from there. Let me finish up the other pieces in here. Get my hammer out of the road here, and we'll run the other two.
Now what we need is the spacer fence. This has got a 3/8 space, a 3/8 fence, and a 3/8 bit. I've already got the bit mounted in the router. All we need to do now is put the bolts in place and tighten it down so that we can use the 3/8 spacer fence to make a combination joint on the sides of the CD storage. So we're going to tighten down this side here. Let's get the other one in place. And we're going to check to make sure that we are in fact 3/8, and we'll work out our height after we get it tightened down. All right, I'm going to need a bolt. Tighten these up so they don't move on us. And then we're going to get the brass setup bars here just to check to see how close we are. And I'm just going to move it over a little bit as much as I can with that. And that's not too bad. Let's tighten this up now. And we'll tighten this side up. And let's just bring over the pieces, and let's look at these pieces. When Dad cut the grooves on the inside, he had marked it so that we had all the one side marked. That's the side that needs the dado. So that's our first cut. So we're going to set our pieces down. I'm going to cut them all in one group, and then I'm going to flip around and cut the rabbets next. All right, we set up our height. Let's just check. I think I had it 3/8 just to confirm that. And that's what we've got. That looks good. We need to plug it in now, and let's go ahead and cut the pieces. Now that we've got all the grooves done, what we need to do is set up the rabbet. Well, I've already got one here that's got a groove in it in place, and what I'm going to do is flip it around, slide it on the end here, and do this while you've got it in an off position. We don't want to get moving with a bit that's going to probably take the piece away, and we're going to put a clamp on to ensure that it keeps it in good shape. And then what we're going to do is make sure that we've got it going in the right direction. We want to put the rabbet so that this side here is facing out. So let's just see how we've got this piece, and I think that's the way it's going to work. All right, let's go ahead and cut the rabbets now. Now that we've completed the rabbets, what we need to do is round over the insides and along the outside edge of the pieces. So I'm going to change my bit to a 1/4 inch round over bit now. So we'll move our pieces off to the side. Let's take down the spacer fence set up here. Move this out of the way. Get rid of this piece here. And let's unplug the tool so we can change it quite simply. And we'll take the bolts off. take this one off here. Now, let's change our bit here. Bring it out. Our next cutter is a 1/4 inch round over bit, and all we're going to do is round over the outside and the inside of the pieces. Because we're working with straight pieces, we're going to use a fence. Slide the fence over, and I've got my 2 clamps here. Going to isolate my bearing. And let's start rounding over the pieces. Oops, need some power.
Now it's time for Tips from the Workshop, Viewer Mail, and Tricks of the Trade on Router Bits Tips and Wood Chips.
Our tip for today is using a router as a jointer. And if you look at our pieces here, we have a little bit of a chip out on it, and what we want to do is go ahead and clean that up. These are oversized so that we can do that. To set it up quickly, what I've done is loaded in a 1/2 inch flush trim bit. This side of the fence is wider or deeper than the other by 1/8 of an inch. And all we're going to do on the outfeed is take a square block of wood, run it up alongside the bearing until the bearing touches the piece, and then we go ahead and put the clamp on this side. And let's check to see how close that jointer fence is going to work. We need the height set so that it's got the depth, so I'm going to raise it up just a little bit. And let's try it and see what happens. Now, if you look at this piece here on the outfeed, you have a bit of a gap in there, and that's that 1/8 that we're going to take off. And we've got a jointer fence now, so let's try it. And there's the cut. Let's go ahead and join our pieces now. Now we don't have the chip out anymore. We got a nice clean cut.
Let's see what kind of a fit we got. Rick, you got the parts. I got the one.
All right, let's dry assemble this one here.
I guess this is the slide. I'll just put that in.
All right.
We set it at the bottom. That's where it's going to start out anyway. You fit the pieces, I'll hold them.
Well, we got them all to work.
Don't have enough room to get that one in there?
I think so.
Okay.
We'll slide that tray in there. I think it fits. And then yours is going to go on top of mine, isn't it?
Yeah.
If we get it together here.
Oh,
all right.
Neat, eh?
Now let's try fit that one, and
You
let's
kinda
see if we
hold
can
that
get the
snug.
module to fit.
And this is how the modules lock.
Now you can build as many as you want, as high as you want.
And out.
Remember, folks, great ideas don't work till you do, so get your router out of the box and get it to work, and we'll see you next time right here on the Router Workshop.
We'd like to hear from you. You can email us at the address on your screen. Send your comments, questions, or project ideas to the Router Workshop, Post Office Box 608, Chamberlain, South Dakota 57325. Or in Canada, the Router Workshop, Post Office Box 280, Ely, Manitoba ROH-OHO. To learn more about the Router Workshop, visit us at the internet address on your screen. Next time in the Router Workshop, a special two-part series, creating a unique bath storage cabinet. Bob and Rick will show you how to use a tenon cutter and straight bit to cut the mortise and tenons in the facing, as well as using a half-classical bit to apply a decorative edge mold. Very satisfying to build. Our bath storage cabinet, Part 1, starts next time, right here in the Router Workshop. Funding for The Router Workshop is provided in part by Hitachi Power Tools, manufacturers of a full range of construction and woodworking power tools. For $16.99 plus $4.99 shipping and handling, you can order Bob and Rick Rosendal's The Router, a 130-page book which includes a plan to build the router table and bench, plus numerous tips, techniques, and educational information. Call 1-800-803-1449.